Good morning. I'm Amanda Denise, and I'm here with Scott Lassiter, elected supervisor for the Wake Water and Story District, and also candidate for NC District House 21. I'm also here with Donnie Harrison, who is running for Wake County Sheriff. How you gentlemen doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. So I'm just going to dive right in here. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you two came to know one another.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off on this one, Sheriff. So I'm a local guy, grew up here in Wake County, and went to Apex Elementary, middle, and high school, real close to where we're filming today. And Sheriff Harrison was my sheriff as a kid. School resource officers in the schools worked for him. He was the person I looked to as law and order, as safety in the county. When after I got back from college and went and took my first teaching job, worked with some of his deputies in schools, and then got elected to the Apex Town Council, where obviously supervising a municipal police force, we interface with the sheriff's office a lot. And as another elected official, as a very young elected official, Sheriff Harrison was always so kind and always so helpful to share anything from his broad breadth of knowledge with me that could help me better serve the public. And that's a relationship we've continued for a long time. I'm honored to call him a friend and a mentor. When I was an assistant principal in the school systems, first named, one of his deputies was my school resource officer. So Sheriff Harrison and I both have that common theme around helping folks and working with children, and just trying to make the community better. He was certainly a big help to get elected to my current role as a Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor here in Wake. But it's a blessing to know him.
Okay, well, it actually leads me into a follow-up question. So you two are from two different generations, but both Native North Carolinians, and you share this relationship and you have these values. How does that happen?
Well, it's just like Scott said. We got to know each other, and me being sheriff. But let me tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up down east in a poor community in Martin County, a little place called Baggrass. There was 22 in my graduating class. But my goal was to be in law enforcement from probably 7, 8 years old. And so it was the work habits that got me started, and I've noticed Scott has the great work habits like me. And so that's how we sort of blended together. I was fortunate enough to get into Highway Patrol and to retire from the Highway Patrol and stay right here in Wake County my whole career. So I did get to meet a lot of good people, and Scott was one of those people. And, you know, people have different values and different things, and he's like me. He wants safety, he wants good schools, he wants good communities, good neighborhoods. So we hit it off from the beginning, and we worked very hard to make sure what our relationship was that way, that we knew what our goals were, and that we were going to work in that direction. So it's been a good relationship, and will continue to be a good relationship. You know, both our themes are Safer Wake County, and so that's right now him running for House. That's great, because I know when he wins, I'll have an ally that I can count on to different things that we may need in law enforcement. So it's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to the future.
And I'll just follow up with that, Amanda. There are a million different ways to divide people. You can divide them based on age, race, whatever. But those common themes, those values of treating everybody the way you want to be treated, the golden rule, delivering on what you say, those are cross-generational. They know no bounds. And in the important things, you know, we share so much more in common just as a community than we do to separate us.
So, Donnie, a safer Wake County is what's important to you. So what does that mean for voters, and why does that make you the best person for the job in which you're running for?
First of all, experience. That's all I've done all my life. I've got over 50 years in experience in law enforcement. I retired from the Highway Patrol and was fortunate enough to be sheriff for 16 years. I've worked with the county commissioners. I've worked with a $100 million budget. So I know what it's like. I've worked with the people. I had an open door policy. Let people come and talk to me about what was going on in the neighborhood. So it's, to me, getting back in and bringing my team back in is something that I look forward to make this a safer county. I was embarrassed when they had the riots downtown Raleigh a year or so ago. To me, that should have never happened. It was poorly planned. When I was sheriff, I let it be known that they were coming. When I say they, it was going to happen. It was happening all over the country. We need to be prepared. But let me make it very clear, I have nothing wrong with protests. I think that people have that right to protest, but peacefully. But I do stand for law and order. And if somebody doesn't want a law and order sheriff, don't need to vote for me. When you start tearing up people's property that's worked very hard to make a living and see it torn up for no reason at all, then I've got a problem with that. I think just looking back, and if they'll look at my record and see the things that we did, and I like to say we because we had a good team, I think given the opportunity, I will be able to put that team back together. We'll have the safest county in this state. There's no question in my mind, but I need that opportunity. And working with people like Scott and other legislatures, county commissioners, the chiefs of police, the EMS, fire, all of us has got to pull together. That's what's going on right now. There's too many pulling apart. I don't look at it as a Republican thing. I don't look at it as a Democrat thing. As law and order and as a sheriff, I look at it, I've got to protect and serve everybody. It doesn't make any difference who they are. And that's the way I did it for 16 years, and I'll do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now, Scott, I'm just going to pivot over to you for a moment here. So your platform is based on common sense, optimistic conservatism. So what does that mean for voters, and why does this make you the best person for the job in which you're running for?
It's a great question. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about that theme, and then I want to talk a little bit about myself and the experience and education and background that make me able to bring it in for a better state, really. The common sense piece really does come right down to what it means. It's hard to define that. We know it when we see it. There's a lot of folks way out there on each fringe of every issue, but 90% of the time we agree in the middle somewhere. That's what's important there to me. Let's just look at issues, try to solve them, try to attack the problems instead of the people. That optimistic piece, that's another important characteristic. You're going to see a lot of people come on TV, be on the radio. You're going to get a lot of mail in your mailboxes, a lot of candidates that stand up and tell you everything that's wrong with a community, everything that's wrong with a state, everything that's wrong with the schools, everything that's wrong with law enforcement. That's not what I'm here to do. You know, we know where the problems are. We see the pinch points. What we've got to do is have some folks in leadership roles that are optimistic about how we solve them and come up with real plans and are looking to reinforce that idea that our best days can be ahead of us. And I use that word can because it really is a self-determining situation here. If we work hard and we work to find common ground and cure some of these ills that are out here in our community, then I know it's only going to get better. But if we continue, as Sheriff talked about, pulling each other apart and tearing at the very fabric of what makes this a community, a great state, a great country, then that won't be the case, and I won't stand for that. Now, the conservatism piece obviously goes back to my belief in fiscal conservatism, my belief that, you know, when we're out here signing budget checks or we're using taxpayer money, it's not our money, it's taxpayer money.
Right.
And we have to be careful with that because every dollar that we're using for a program, in my opinion, is a dollar that should be back in a family's pocket. Times are tough now, so we have to be good stewards of those funds. We have to make sure that we're really looking out for the taxpayer and ensuring that we're coming up with solutions, but making sure that they are that they're the best way and that they're done in a way that that's fiscally responsible.
Okay, so you mentioned something about education earlier. So what are the key things that you want to touch on in regards to education? Can you expound on that for me a little bit, please?
Thanks, Amanda. So that's what I am. I'm a lifetime educator. This is my 12th year in the public school system. Any of the political offices I've had have always been part-time. But my work in public education started right here in the district as a student teacher at Middle Creek High School, and went on to teach middle school and be an assistant principal in middle school, so public education is key and important to me. The vast majority of our students are going to be going through public schools, and they have a role and a responsibility to bring up the next generation of citizens, and I think that is important. We've got to make sure we have a quality teacher in every classroom that's properly compensated. It's a competitive job market. We need a successful and capable principal at the helm of every school. Schools should be safe places, places where students go to learn with limited distractions, and we partner with families, because you'll never hear me argue that against this. Families and parents are the key decision makers in their children's lives. I don't care how many letters you put in front or behind my name, how many degrees I have, I will never know that child as much as mom and daddy do. And I always want to partner with them. So education is key, infrastructure is key. Down here in southern Wake County where things are growing, we feel a lot of pain around some roads and infrastructure things. A lot of that is the state's responsibility. We've got to have a legislator there that can bring home the bacon, so to speak. You look at 1010 Road, which runs right through the heart of this district from Apex to Garner. Anybody that drives on that at any time understands how tough it is to get from point A to point B, and that's where we need to be bringing that home, making sure that we have the primary responsibilities of the states, roads, utilities, and all that stuff are there, so that businesses can go out and innovate. Third tenet is that economic opportunity, and we've got jobs in Wake County. We're in a different situation economically than other parts, more rural parts of the state. But what we've got to make sure is that our folks, our children, people that are here have access to these jobs. Doesn't do any good if we're just shipping in folks to go work for Apple from other parts of the country, and all we're doing is raising our property rates and property values and property taxes to pay for that. We've got to make sure that we partner with schools, community colleges to ensure that we are providing the next generation of workers in these fields, and some of these jobs we don't even know what they'll look like yet, but they're coming. This is a great area. Want to do some work around the property tax rate. We talked about that. For far too long, we've seen local governments use a sleight of hand trick where they say they're not raising your taxes, but they're running your property values up through reappraisals, and you end up with a larger tax bill. And it's really hurting working class families. It's hurting retirees. And I don't want our increasing property values to be what breaks us and causes us to have to leave such a wonderful community for places where the tax bill is lower. And there's some work that the legislature could do there. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for expounding on that for us. Appreciate that. Okay, guys, so I'm going to get down to the nitty-gritty, as one could say. What do you feel that voters should know about you? The good, the bad, the ugly. Here's your chance now to lay it on the table.
Scott, I'll let you take that one.
Okay, good. Well, I'll tell you, you're not going to find anybody that works harder than me. I believe in putting my cell phone out there, being accessible to people. If I'm going to ask you for my vote, for your vote for me, I want you to know everything about me. To me, elections are about one long job interview. I could tell you where I went to school. I could tell you about my work at NC State and then at North Carolina Central in education. I could talk to you about the doctorate that I'm almost finished with here at North Carolina State. I could talk to you about my work history. I'd love to do that. I encourage folks to look at my resume, look at what I've been able to accomplish in the past, previous positions held, and just know that I'm not going to not succeed. We're going to be there to support our constituents, and I'm going to make sure that they're heard, even if we don't always agree. I will be an accessible and accountable representative that'll talk to you, and you'll know where I stand. You said the good, the bad, and the ugly, so I gave you the good. Part of a job interview is sometimes you have to acknowledge things that are in your past. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a real person that made a real mistake a real long time ago. Right after graduating college, made a mistake. I operated a motor vehicle after having consumed alcohol. It was extremely embarrassing. It was dangerous. And I just encourage folks to look at what I've been able to do since then. It's more than a decade ago, certainly learned from it. Humbling experience, and I wish it didn't happen, and I hope other people will take caution anytime they think about doing something like that. And it's just by the grace of God that nobody got hurt, and it wasn't a serious accident or something like that. And you know, Amanda and Sheriff Harrison, I've worked every day since then to try to encourage positive decision making among youth. In my role now as an assistant principal at an alternative school where we work with students who have made mistakes, try to make positive decisions, because we know that positive decisions and positive attitudes lead to positive results. And
Donnie, would you care to respond?
Yeah, let me just touch on that just a little bit. Scott, I knew about that and known about it for some time, but you're not the only one who makes mistakes. The main thing is you learn from that mistake. Over my career in law enforcement, I have seen that happen many times, and I have seen people like you bounce back and do great jobs and continue to do the things. You know, you made a mistake, but you admitted that mistake and you moved on, and that's the way it is. Some time back when I was sheriff, there was a move on to help people that had made mistakes get jobs. I was all for that, because a lot of people that have committed crimes can't get a job. But, you know, we expect them to work just like everybody else. But if we don't support them, then how's that going to happen? So I think it's great that you share this with the public. I think it means a lot. At least you're honest and people know that. But as far as law enforcement and about me, as I said earlier, if you want true law enforcement, vote for me. If you don't want good law enforcement, don't vote for me. And I mean that seriously. I'm very, law and order, we got to have law and order in this state. We got to have law and order in this country. And I know training is, people harp on training, people harp on law enforcement all the time. People don't really know what law enforcement does. They think we just go out every day and do this and do that. Believe me, we have to make split-second decisions, and we try to hire the right people. And we just need more money to help us hire better people. We need the support of the people. And given that opportunity, I know I can bring that about. I know we're going to need more training. I'm already looking at things that we need to do. But we've got to put God back into things. When we started taking God out of schools and out of other businesses, we saw a downward spin. And, you know, it's just like I tell my employees when I was sheriff, put God first, your family, your job, and then treat people like you want to be treated. No telling how many times I said that in meetings with my employees. Do we make mistakes? Yes, we do. I'm surprised we don't make more than we do as quickly as we have to make decisions. I don't know of anybody that don't make mistakes, any company or any firm, even preachers. And looking at law enforcement throughout the country, I would still put us up against anybody. And as far as that goes, I've already looked at some things and bring a team back where we can do more training to de-escalate things. We've got to work more with the people. I'm a believer in working with the public and getting out in the neighborhoods myself, and also tell the deputies to do the same thing. But I'm going to say it again. We've got to come together as citizens to make this a safer place. I know people like to say that they're political this, political that, but when it comes to law enforcement, I don't look at it that way. I'm straight down the middle. When I won the sheriff's race, people were coming in my office say, do I need to change my affiliation to this or that? No, I don't tell people where to go to church. I don't tell people where to go shopping. The main thing is we've got a job to do, and we're going to do it by the law. And I took an oath to serve and protect people. I don't care who you are. And that's the way those deputies are, and that's what I instill in them. It doesn't matter what color their skin is, where they're from, whatever it may be. We do the job by the book and make sure everybody is safe. And I'll continue to do that. It's not going to be easy. We have one of the biggest mental health hospitals in this state right here in Wake County, and that's the Wake County Jail. And that's something I worked on from the beginning of my last term, and I will do it again here. We've got to have some help from outside people to make sure that the mental health people are getting some help. I will start that from day one, just like I did before. We got to look after our elderly. We had a Citizens Well Check program that no longer exists. That's something that I'll put back in right away. We've got to work with our youth. There's so many things that I could tell with time will just not let us do it. But if you want somebody that's going to work, have an open door policy, and that can deal with people and get along with people, vote for Donnie Harrison. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Sheriff, that was great. And I just want to vouch and say, talk about that de-escalation. I have seen this man in the community work with folks that are extremely elevated. And some of the training that he's put himself through and his officers through, the crisis intervention training that you sort of spearheaded in the Sheriff's Department, it saves lives.
Sure does.
You hear about the shootings, you hear about the times that it doesn't work, but there's not a day when you don't have law enforcement officers out there using their words and using their relationships, their people skills that this man pioneered and championed to bring a peaceful end to something that could turn very violent.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. So we've talked about your policy, we've talked about who you are and the plans you have in motion if you get elected for your position. So how can people find out more about your platform and just get in contact with you? Like, how can they find you?
Great question. That's one of the good things about this information age we're living in. There's no shortage of it. I encourage folks to go straight to the source. With me, it's www.votescottlassiter.com. On Facebook group, NC House, or Scott Lassiter for NC House. You'll find all kinds of ways to reach me. Email, you can write a letter, send smoke signals. That's one thing I like to do is talk to constituents. And if there's any question that a voter has out there about whether they should vote for me or not and they're undecided, pick up that phone and give me a call. Give me a chance before you check a different box to earn your vote, because that's what it's all about.
I like that. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you guys. Do you have a website, Donnie, that people can contact you?
DonnieHarrison.com, and also I have Facebook, and I'm out and about quite a bit, and my phone number's flying all over the county because I get calls every day, so people can call me directly if they'd like to by getting information from Facebook and from the webpage, and I love to have the support.
All right, well, good luck to you both.
Well, thank you, Amanda, and thank you for your time. It's been an honor to be here with you today and to share the couch with Sheriff Harrison.
Of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome.